How we doing, pilots? Zrostyle here with a Gundam card game deck profile video. Just a little background on this deck. I use this deck to go 4 straight victories on my local circuit. As you can see on the screen here, the 4 cards that I would have pulled from our respective winners packs were Zaku 3 Sleeves, which I think is probably the coolest looking one. Definitely not Char, Shuji Ito, and then the curse that just never goes away. The card that is probably the worst card in the game, White Wolf. Just a little bit of background on the deck itself. It's your standard, white-green setup, blockers with wing 0. And I know before you start to cringe, we play it a little bit differently than your standard, wing 0. At least I like to think so. And it's actually kind of a bit of a homebrew that I made because I wasn't good enough to just net deck the top deck at the time. So previously what I was trying to play was this guy right here, which is commonly referred to as Ralph Wing Zero. It's the deck that Ralph used to win the tournament in GG01. Like it says, 3 Zawart, 2 Ilfrith, 3 Wing Birds, 2 Launcher Strikes, 3 Sword Strikes, 3 Ale Strikes, 4 Wing Gundam, 2 Freedoms, 4 Wing Zero, and then 8 pilots: Hiro, Yui, Kira, Hawk of, we'll call it Mulaflaga because I can't say that word, and then, Overflowing Affection, Unforeseen Incident, Striker Packs, and the Underground Desert Base. I continue to misplay this just by, lack of experience, lack of game knowledge. So I made some tweaks to kind of make it so that it was almost idiot proof. And yeah, it ended up working out pretty good for me. So with all that, let's get right into the deck profile. So for the deck profile, we're going to start with our low-level units here, which, like any standard white/X deck, is just your standard blocker package. And what that looks like for us is 3 Zwart, 4 Gundam Ilfriths, and 2 Rick Diaz. And I kind of play with the combination of different cards here. At one point favoring more Rick Diaz over Zawart and actually not running any Zawarts at all. But I found that Zawart kind of has this weird value crisis where early game against aggro decks, it's almost like invaluable to the point where it becomes required and you almost wish you had more. Just in the scenario that you are going first and it's aggro. Because sometimes, by the time turn 2 rolls around, they might have 2, they might have 3 units, depending if they've been able to drop a single on their turn 1, or if they burn the EX at that point. At which point you're kind of in a situation where you're already behind and you need to stop the bleeding basically immediately. It's a bit of a smaller body because, 2 HP, so it's kind of susceptible to things like different pingers and all that stuff. However, it's kind of one of those things where early game the value is like 10x what it is at the end of the game, but it's still kind of a big enough body that you can maybe do a trade with something where it's got 3 HP and you throw a Zawart and that's like a crazy trade for you. Late game the value is not so good just because it's so small, and it is one of those things that will die by your wing. So if you're playing it late game, 10 chances to 1 it's going to be dead whenever you play your big gun. It also can attack the player, so it does have that limitation. So if you're really behind and you got to generate some pressure, maybe pop a base, it can't do that. Now moving on to my next, I call these my like 3 cost little dudes basically. There's not too many of them, but 3 Wing Gundam Bird Mode and 1 Launcher Strike. So we'll start with Launcher Strike first, just because this is a card that I see a lot of value in, mainly because it doesn't die to your wing. But also because it's got 4 HP, it at times means that it takes 2 things to kill it, or something that's a little bit larger And with 3 attack power, it's one of those things where you can potentially get a really good trade by killing something that's already got a little bit of damage on it. Like I said, it doesn't die to your wing, so you can play this, drop your wing, and you still have a blocker in cases where you're kind of fighting from behind. You're trying to turn the tide a little bit, but you still need that block because you're low on your shields or don't have a base. So I've played with the idea of possibly having more of these, and I've actually also played with the idea of maybe dropping the number of bird modes, because bird mode's kind of got this weird crisis of value where, you know, when you can drop this thing on turn 3, when you've gone seconds, you already have an EX, that's like insane value. You get to jump to such a high level of energy that you can drop something really big on your turn 4, turn 5, and not really feel any punishment. However, bird mode is incredibly weak. As you can see, it's a 2/2 and it costs 3. So if you're unable to drop this on curve, the value drops to the floor, almost to the point where it's like discard fodder, or just something that you play to hopefully soak up some sort of action like a close combat, because they can just knock it off right away. I find a lot of times when wing bird mode feels bad, it's that I'm already kind of behind and I need to drop a blocker on my turn 3 as well after dropping one on turn 2, and then it's just like I never get a chance after that turn 3. So it's kind of like a weird thing where it feels really good whenever it works, but it feels really bad when it doesn't. And that's why I think a lot of people tend to sometimes favor Death Scythe in favor of wing bird mode, which is like also like a very polarizing thing amongst the community. Like the people that love Death Scythe generally hate bird mode, and people who love bird mode generally don't like Death Scythe and think it costs too much. The two sides usually never agree, but in this case, I actually don't have any Death Scythes, so I was forced to really play bird mode, but I don't think in this deck I would actually play Death Scythe anyways, because in the middle it's busy, we'll say. Speaking of which, moving on to my middle units, we have the following. Starting with 3 Shenlong Gundams, 4 Ale Strikes, and of course 4 Wing Gundams. So, starting with Shenlong Gundam, the meta in my local area is interesting because it's basically people who play blockers and people who play aggro, which I guess is every meta, but I find that whenever you're able to eat blockers, it really pushes the tempo, and that's what Shenlong brings. You know, usually you get guys who are sitting there behind a wall of, you know, Rick Diaz and Ilfriths. Well, Shenlong can eat those just by attacking. So I think that's like a crazy value. Also, whenever you link them, you basically don't take any damage whenever you attack little guys, which again is crazy, absolutely crazy. So I'm currently running 3. I was running 2. I actually took out a launcher strike in favor of one more. Mixed reviews so far, but I think that it's a case where Shenlong, I would run at least 2, but I think 3 actually would feel good. It's just kind of a bad luck situation that maybe things didn't work out for me. To the card to the right, L Strike Gundam, I actually think is like the best card in the game. I love the bounce mechanic. I love that I can drop this card with a Akira, bounce something, and then swing on something, kill it, and then still survive because it is 2 less HP, or attack power, not HP. So I love this card. I feel like 4 in every white deck is like a prerequisite, and if you can't run 4, then you're missing out. Many people will disagree with me, but like I said, I think this is like the best card in the game. I think the value is insane. And then there's like cases in not necessarily this deck, but in other decks where it's like you pair this with an Amaro and then you get the rest 1 bounce 1, and that's just like crazy control. It like turns the board around. And last but not least is Wing Gundam, which this is like your heavy lifter. You know, reach 5, can attack things that are standing up. And there's so much synergy with all the different pilots that we run in this deck. This is the one that does all the work though, because it can just attack anything basically. It's good for trades. You pair it with link it up with Hero Yui. It's a 7/7 running into something. It's dead, and then you also bust a base or take a shield. A lot of people kind of get confused maybe, or maybe mistaken, and they say, you know, Wing Zero is the bread and butter of this deck. I don't agree with that at all. Like, there's times where I've won games without actually dropping a Wing Zero because I've just been able to work them with things like Shenlong or things like Wing Gundam. Not so much Ale Strike, just because it's a blocker, so sometimes you tend not to attack with it. But Wing Gundam for sure. So I would say this is like kind of the MVP of the deck. And I know like all the images, whenever like you see deck profiles, and even in this video, you'll see, you know, Wing Zero is like front and center, but this is like your unsung hero. And of course, last but not least, our highest level guy. We are running 1, 2, 3, 4 Wing Zeros. This is mostly to just make sure that you actually see the Wing Zero. It feels really good though whenever you're like behind, you drop a Wing Zero, they replenish their board, and then you drop a Wing Zero, and then you can also like link it. So now you have 2 high maneuver attackers that are just working your opponent over and over and over. It's really good. It's your tide turner. It's kind of like, you know, getting a shot of adrenaline late game. There are cases where you don't get to fully maximize the high maneuver because you have to actually use it to attack things. I ran into a weird case against a clan deck where I would drop Wing Zero and then I would have to swing into like Omega Saikamus to make sure that I didn't just get worked by them, because they had more than I did on the board, and it just kind of worked out that way. That's a case where maybe not the best scenario for you, but you're still able to survive just because you basically carpet bomb them and take out all their other units. Like I said, this gets all the shine and the approval, but really it's kind of like you know, the Scottie Pippen to your Michael Jordan. Yeah. So that's it for my units. We'll do a quick little pilot profile here. The main thing, and we'll go over this with the strategy portion of this video, there's a lot of synergy across these pilots here. So naturally, 4 Hero Yuis, and then we follow that up with 4 Kiras, and just 2 Chain Wufeis. The idea that I've been told is that it's ideal to be able to basically 2 units for every pilot. With this, there are cases where it's like all of these units could work with something. There's never a case where you can't really do anything with it. Ideally, it's a case where like you link it with their respective unit, but there are scenarios where it's actually better to link these or pair these with other units, whether it be, you know, you put a Wufei into a Ale Strike to bounce something, or other different strategic approaches. So that's our pilots. No real surprises there, I don't think. Just to kind of last round up our bases, we're rocking 4 underground desert bases and 1 Kusanagi. I've seen cases where people don't run the Kusanagi. I like the bounce. Like I said, with Ale Strike, it's kind of like one of my favorite mechanics. Plus, it's really nice where you're in a situation where it's like, you know, there might be 2 blockers on board. You have a Shenlong out. You get to play that. You bounce 1, eat 1, and then you can attack face or attack something else. There's been cases where I've used Kusanagi to win the game. It's a 4 health base, so it's not like, it's not going to keep you alive for long. Obviously, that's what the underground bases are for, but there's still, I think, a place for this base in this deck, and I think it works well. For the commands, I mean, I think it's pretty standard fare here. 4 overflowing affections here, and then 3 striker packs, which I have like I've talked about the idea of maybe like pulling some of these out and putting unforeseen incidents back in. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Striker pack is like a bittersweet thing where like it feels great whenever you get to get one off of a burst and you get a 3/3. It's nice to be able to have an extra blocker. The downside is that if you already have a token down, you get a burst, you can only have one of those tokens out, so that feels really bad. And it feels really bad whenever you need to kind of flood the board with blockers because you're behind and all you're getting is striker tokens or striker pack, and you can only have one. So that's kind of my only beef with that card, but I do think it's got a place in it. I might pull it down to 2. Right now 3 feels pretty good, with the exception of, like I said, the scenarios where it feels really bad. But yeah, so that's the deck profile. Let's get into the strategy portion. All right, we'll start with the strategy portion with a segment that I like to call How I Like to Use Wing Zero. So I'm a stickler for getting super value out of what's on my board, as well as using it against my opponents and getting really high value. So I've been known to sometimes hold my Wing Zero unless there's like maybe 2 or 3 units on the other side. However, there are cases where I will, be ready to drop a Wing Zero, but my board might look something like this. And we'll say, just for this scenario, this Ilfrith is 2 HP. I blocked something last turn. So I'm in a situation where it's like, okay, I need to drop my wing, and I need to make sure that I get as much value as possible. So in a scenario against like an aggro deck, if I drop my wing right as soon as my turn starts, I will wipe my board, wipe their board, and that's it. However, they may have, a base, or they may have, full slate of shields. So how I will do that is I will swing. I make sure that I always swing with my blockers, or anything really that's going to die if I drop wing. And I refer to it as wing, but I mean Wing Zero. Just because whenever I do it and I drop this dude, everything's gone. So I might as well maximize the amount of value that I can get out of my cards that I already have in play before I destroy them, as well as put the pressure on the opponent to make sure that they don't have as many shields, so that whenever I get to start swinging with high maneuver, they have nothing to really kind of back them up. It also helps too, like whenever you pop those shields, if there's no bursts, because then they don't go to their hand or they don't come into play. But it's still how I kind of play with that. Like I said, I've been known to hold wing, but at the very least, I make sure that I always swing with my guys. And that might not be a case too, where it's like not just my blockers, but like it could be a case where I have like a Shenlong out or something, and it's gonna die if I don't, or like I have an L Strike that's got 2 damage on it already. Moral of the story: I use my guys before they're gonna die. I had talked previously about synergy, so I'll call this next one just basically like Wing Gundam synergy. So, Wing Gundam, like I said earlier on, Breach 5, whenever you attack, you can attack active units as long as they are level 4 or lower, which is insane, just because, they'll have a blocker up or maybe like a little guy up, and you'll go to attack. You can attack them, do the breach, and you also clear the board out. And because it's Breach 5, that basically kills like almost any base. So, obviously, the standard thing, Hero U. So that makes this a 7/7. which is huge. That basically kills any unit in the game, except like a paired wing 0 and maybe, I think it even kills Epsilon. Like, it kills basically every unit in the game. And it's kamikaze, so it's like you kill it and then you also possibly pop a base or take field. One thing that I've seen people not really factor in, especially ones who use Shenlong, is Wu Fei. So when you pair, what Wu Fei says is during your turn, while the unit has breach, it can't receive battle damage from enemy units with 3 or less AP. So what this means is that you can basically run wild on aggro decks or decks that have many little blockers, do your breach, and then take no damage. So you become a 6/6, and you can attack anything that's got 3 or less, and also receive no damage, which just increases the life and makes it harder to kill this thing. Because ideally, you know, you attack a blocker with Hero Yui linked, and you go from a 7/7 to a 7/4. We'll say you attack a Rick Diaz. Next turn, all you gotta take is 4 damage. That can be a double close combat. That can be, they run a blocker into you and then close combat. Anything that's, it doesn't take a whole lot to wipe it out. However, as a 6/6, it takes a little bit more oomph to take out the Wing Gundam, especially with Wu Fei attached to it. Another one that I've actually really like, and this just kind of goes to show that like literally any pilot can synergize with this card that I run with, is using Kira. So Kira's effect is whenever you attack, whatever you attack gets -2. So in cases like, your opponent puts out a Elfrith, you can attack it, take no damage, as if you had Shenlong, or not Shenlong, Wu Fei, and you then do your breach and you take out their blocker. You see this used a lot against little aggro decks who have like little tiny dudes, and then they just have the wing just run wild on them because it can pop them and take next to no damage, or in some cases no damage if they're actually just like 2 attacks. It's just got so much power, and it gives the Wing Gundam so much synergy across the whole deck because, like I said, there's literally anything that can be attached to it. And a similar scenario can be said with the Shenlong, in a sense. Like if you pair Kira with it, then you can attack, and in a similar situation, attack something that gets -2. It's actually probably better to have Wu Fei linked, but you're only running 2 in the deck, so you can't always guarantee that's going to happen. Sometimes you have to attach stuff to it or just play it vanilla. But yeah, that's kind of like my Wing Gundam strategy. I literally just kind of read the room on it. If I need to blow something up that's big, I usually try to get a Hero Yui attached to it. Or if I just need to like go like turn 6, like I need to drop the link and bring the hammer down, then I will. But if I can afford to like wait, and I know that they have like a pile of blockers and stuff, or a bunch of little guys, I'll wait and attach a Kira or a Wu Fei. Yeah, any comments on the deck? I'm going to add a link in the description below so that you can see that, what's in the deck for yourself. You can go through, read the cards. You can copy it into Mobile Suit Arena, take it for a spin, and let me know how you get along with it. Make tweaks to it. Let me know what you changed. Let me know how that worked out for you. Open to discussion on it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What would you change? Let me hear it. I'm all ears on this. Personally, like I said, I have won like the last 4 of my tournaments. I think my people in my local scene are kind of getting agitated to the fact that it's like just wing non-stop. So I'm going to try a different deck. So I'm gonna maybe retire this one for a little bit and play something a little different and just get a little variety. Once upon a time, I actually wasn't able to play anything other than this because, you know, obviously product is at a premium, especially in my area. I'm in a bit of a smaller market, so I'm gonna take a break from it. I might come back to it if I, you know, have a couple bad outings where I don't do well with these new decks. I might, you know, bring it all trusty and just go from there. But like I said, thanks for watching. If you like the video, give it a like. If you like the content, give it a subscribe. I'm new to this whole game, and I'm, you know, figuring it out as I go. But until next time, peace.